The Orc commander arrived at the mountain infirmary with an arrow in her back, and 20 soldiers too frightened to touch her. Rain hammered the old monastery roof. Wind drove snow through the open gate, scattering it across the flagstones as the soldiers carried their commander into the treatment hall on a door torn from its hinges. She was taller than most of the men around her, even while lying down. Black iron armor covered her from throat to boots, each plate engraved with the silver marks of 100 victories. Dark blood shone between the pieces at her shoulder. Elias took one look at the black veins spreading beneath her green skin and understood that the arrow was not the greatest danger. "Set her on the table," he said. The soldiers hesitated. Their commander opened amber eyes. Even half-conscious, her stare made 3 armed men step backward. "Leave us," she ordered. No one moved. Her lower tusks showed as her lip curled. Now, the treatment hall emptied so quickly that one soldier forgot his sword beside the door. Elias shut the gate against the storm and returned to the table. The commander had forced herself upright. Long black braids hung over one armored shoulder. A thin silver scar crossed her left cheek, and 3 iron rings decorated the tip of her right tusk. She reached behind herself, found the broken arrow shaft, and tried to pull it free. Elias caught her wrist. "Do that, and you may never move your arm again." Her gaze dropped to his hand. "Remove it." "I will. First, remove your armor." The room went very still. Outside, thunder rolled through the mountains. The commander slowly turned her face toward him. "Human, do you know who I am?" "A patient staining my best table." "I am Commander Varka of the Northern Legion." "Then you can stain it with authority. Remove your armor." Her eyes narrowed. Elias had treated frightened recruits, drunken nobles, enemy prisoners, and one bishop who bit him during surgery. None had looked at him as if deciding which of his bones to break first. "No one touches this armor," Varka said. The arrow entered beneath the rear shoulder plate. The metal is holding the head inside you. More importantly, the blue discoloration at your neck means the arrow was poisoned. If I cannot reach the wound, you will stop breathing before the storm passes. Then cut around it. Orc iron ruins saws. That sounds like a human problem. Elias folded his arms. It becomes an orc problem in approximately 10 minutes. Varka slid from the table. Her boot struck the floor hard enough to shake the medicine bottles. She stood nearly a head taller than him, broad-shouldered and powerful, her armor turning her into a wall of black iron. Only the tremor in her left hand betrayed the poison moving through her. "Bring one of my armorers," she said. "Your armorers are 2 days north with the rest of your army." "Then bring my captain." The moment your captain sees those veins, every soldier in the courtyard will know their commander may be dying. Panic is bad for recovery. Varka reached for him. Elias did not move. Her gauntleted hand stopped around his throat without quite touching it. Are all human healers this insolent? Only the competent ones. For one breath, anger burned in her eyes. Then her knees weakened. Elias caught her before the armor dragged them both to the floor. Her weight drove him against the table, but he kept one arm around her waist and the other beneath her uninjured shoulder. Heat radiated from the gaps between the plates. Varka's breath touched his ear. "If you speak of this, I will deny it. I will tell everyone you fell gracefully." She made a sound that might have been a growl or a laugh strangled by pain. Elias helped her sit. "Where are the fastenings? I said no one touches the armor." "You also ordered me to remove the arrow. Choose which command matters more." Varka looked toward the closed door. Her soldiers waited on the other side, silent enough that she knew they were listening. "Bar it," she said. Elias slid the heavy beam into place. When he turned back, Varka was removing her right gauntlet. She placed it on the table with care, then the left. Beneath the iron, her hands were scarred and strong. A black line had already reached one wrist. "Faster," Elias said. "Do not rush me." The poison is doing exactly that. She unhooked the gorget at her throat. Her fingers fumbled on the second clasp. Elias stepped closer. "May I?" Varka's shoulders tightened. For a woman who could command thousands into battle, the question seemed to frighten her more than an order would have. At last, she lowered her hands. Only the clasps. Elias reached beneath her braids. His knuckles brushed the warm skin at the base of her neck. Varka stopped breathing for a moment. So did he. The first clasp released, then the second. He lifted the iron collar away and set it beside the gauntlets. Black veins branched from the wound toward her collarbone. Breastplate next. Varka turned her back. 3 buckles on the left, 2 beneath the arm. The arrow shaft protruded between overlapping plates. Elias worked around it carefully, releasing leather straps darkened by rain. Varka remained rigid. Each time his fingers passed near her side, a small tremor moved through her body. "Am I hurting you?" he asked. "No." "Then why are you shaking?" "I am imagining your funeral." "Try to imagine it after I save you." The final buckle opened. Elias eased the heavy breastplate forward. Beneath it, Varka wore a sleeveless layer of black padded cloth soaked with rain and sweat. The arrow had entered high beneath her shoulder blade. The skin around it was swollen and discolored. If you want hotter and uncensored orc-bound fantasy romance stories, I'll be sharing them on my Patreon page. These are the deeper and more intense scenes I can't post here. So check the description for details. Now, back to Varka and Elias. Because the feared orc commander had finally removed her armor, and the human healer was about to discover why her wound was no accident. Varka reached for the breastplate as though the distance between them was dangerous. "Leave it," Elias said. "It stays where I can see it." He placed it against the table directly in front of her. "Satisfied?" "No." "Good. That means the poison has not made you agreeable." Elias cut the padded cloth around the wound. Varka's back was a history written in scars. A blade had crossed one shoulder. 3 round marks followed her ribs. Near her spine was an old burn shaped like a human military seal. He paused. Varka felt it. "You are staring." "I am examining." "Examine the new wound. The old ones have already failed to kill me." Elias cleaned the skin and smelled the dark residue on the arrow shaft. Bitter almond, iron, and something sweet. "Night glass," he said. Varka looked over her shoulder. "That poison is controlled by the royal surgeons and military quartermasters. It slows the muscles before it stops the lungs." "How long ago were you struck?" "Less than an hour." "Then we have a chance." He crossed to a locked cabinet, took out a green glass bottle and poured the antidote into a cup. Varka smelled it. "What is in this?" "Things you will dislike." "Name them." "Charcoal, bitterroot, salt, goat's milk, and an amount of fermented mushroom I will not specify." "You expect me to drink something you refuse to fully describe?" "I expect you to decide whether mistrust is worth dying for." Her jaw hardened. Elias raised the cup to his own mouth and drank a small swallow. The bitterness made his eyes water, but he kept his expression calm. "Not poison," he said. Varka took the cup and emptied it without looking away from him. "Now lie down." "I will sit. I need leverage. You have a table. And you have an arrow beneath your shoulder. Lie down, Commander." She lay on her stomach with her face turned toward him. Without the armor, she looked no less dangerous, but she looked more real. Her breathing was shallow. Rainwater gleamed along the curve of her shoulder. Elias prepared his instruments and placed a leather strap near her hand. "Bite this." Varka pushed it away. "I have endured worse. That does not make this hurt less." "Do it." Elias cut beside the shaft. Varka's fingers closed around the edge of the table. Wood groaned beneath her grip, but she made no sound. The arrowhead was barbed. He widened the wound, caught the metal with forceps, and pulled it free in one smooth motion. Varka exhaled through clenched teeth. Elias dropped the arrowhead into a metal bowl. It struck with a small, clear sound. Something about it was wrong. He held it near the lamp. Enemy raiders used crude three-sided heads. This one was narrow, balanced, and stamped at the base with a tiny crown, divided by a vertical line, the mark of the Allied commander's personal armory. Varka saw his face. "What is it?" Elias turned the arrowhead so she could see. Her amber eyes went cold. "That arrow did not come from the enemy," he said. "It came from someone inside your own command." Varka reached for the arrowhead. Elias closed his hand around it. "Not yet. It is evidence against one of my officers. It is covered in poison. I have gloves. Your gloves are across the room, and you can barely lift your left arm." As if to prove him wrong, Varka pushed herself upright. The movement pulled the cut open. Elias pressed folded linen against her back. She seized his forearm. They froze in that position, his body close behind hers, his palm firm against her bare shoulder blade, her hand locked around him. "Do not command me in front of my soldiers," she said quietly. "Then stop trying to bleed to death where they can see you. I have led armies since before you learned to hold a knife. A healer's knife, perhaps. I held a kitchen knife at 6. Varka stared at him. "You joke when frightened. I joke when my patients are impossible. You are frightened." Elias tied the bandage around her shoulder and chest, careful not to let his hands linger. "Yes, someone shot you with military poison, and that someone may be standing outside my door. Only a fool would not be frightened." Her grip loosened. "Humans rarely admit fear to me. Humans often confuse stupidity with courage." For the first time, Varka smiled. It was slight, sharp, and unexpectedly beautiful. Then a heavy fist struck the barred door. "Commander," the captain called, "the men need to see you." Varka's smile vanished. Elias collected the poisoned cloth, instruments, and arrowhead. He placed everything in a wooden box and locked it inside the medicine cabinet. "Can you stand?" "You have asked me that twice." The answer changed the first time. Varka swung her legs from the table. Her bare feet touched the cold stone. She tried to rise and immediately sat again. "The antidote takes time," Elias said. "If you put the armor back on, the weight may stop your breathing. If I do not appear, they will know I am weak. Wounded is not weak. Soldiers understand the difference. Ambitious officers pretend not to." The fist struck again. "Commander." Varka looked at the black breastplate. Elias took a wool blanket from the shelf and wrapped it around her shoulders. It barely met across her chest. "What are you doing?" "Keeping you warm. I look like a patient. That is because you are one. I need my armor. You need air. My soldiers need certainty." Elias studied her. Beneath the commander's fury was something else, something close to terror. It was not the pain or the poison. It was the thought of being seen without iron between her body and the world. "Sit in my chair," he said. "Why?" "It has a high back. The blanket will hide the bandage. I will tell them I removed the arrow and ordered you to rest. You will tell them whatever commanders tell soldiers when they are worried. And if the traitor is among them, then let him see that his arrow failed." Varka considered the plan, then moved to the chair with Elias supporting her elbow. She hated accepting the help. He could feel it in every stiff line of her body. When she was seated, he arranged the blanket, placed her uninjured hand on the armrest, and moved the lamp so the shadow concealed the black veins at her throat. "Do I look weak?" she asked. "You look as if you might execute the furniture." "Good." Elias lifted the bar. The captain entered with the army surgeon and 4 guards. The captain was a thick-necked orc whose polished armor showed no sign of the muddy road. The surgeon was human, narrow-faced and clean-handed, carrying a leather case far too small for battlefield work. Both stopped when they saw Varka without her armor. The captain recovered first. "Commander, we heard the arrow was poisoned." "You heard too much," Varka said. The army surgeon stepped toward her. "I should examine the wound." Elias blocked his path. "It has been cleaned and closed. By a monastery healer. By the man whose table she is sitting beside." The surgeon's eyes moved to the discarded black armor. "What poison?" Elias answered without hesitation. "Bogthorn, common among the raiders." The surgeon's face remained still, but his right thumb rubbed once across the edge of his case. Varka noticed. "The arrowhead?" the captain asked. "Lost in the wound," Elias said. "I had to break it apart." "Then where are the pieces?" "In the fire." The captain looked toward the hearth. Flames consumed a bundle of bloodied cloth Elias had thrown there moments earlier. "Convenient," the surgeon said. "For the commander," Elias replied. "Less convenient for the arrow." Varka shifted in the chair. Her jaw tightened as pain moved through her, but her voice was steady. "How many did we lose in the pass?" The captain straightened. 7 dead, 11 missing. The attackers fled south. "You saw them? Their cloaks, their horses, human raiders?" "Humans ride many kinds of horses," Elias said. The captain turned on him. "You were not asked." "He is correct," Varka said. "Send scouts back to the pass. Bring me every arrow they find. No one leaves the infirmary grounds until I review them." For the first time, uncertainty crossed the captain's face. "The peace delegation expects us at the summit tomorrow." "Then they will wait." "The treaty may fail if you are absent." "The treaty will certainly fail if I am dead." The surgeon opened his case. "Commander, there may be a second dose of poison in your blood. I have something that will help." He removed a silver syringe. Elias smelled night glass before the cap came off. Varka's eyes met his. Neither moved. The surgeon stepped closer. "Your arm." Elias reached for the syringe. "I will administer it." "You do not know the dose." "Then explain it." "Stand aside." Varka lifted one hand. Everyone stopped. "The healer who removed the arrow will complete the treatment," she said. "The rest of you will leave." The captain looked at the surgeon. It was only a glance, gone quickly, but Elias saw it. So did Varka. The surgeon placed the syringe back in his case. "As you command." They withdrew. The captain was last. Before closing the door, his gaze settled on Varka's breastplate. The latch clicked. Varka waited until the footsteps faded. "Night glass?" she asked. "A stronger mixture than the arrow carried. That syringe would have stopped your heart. The surgeon has served my army for 4 years. Then someone has spent 4 years preparing to kill you." Varka stared at the door. The captain knew. Or suspected. He knew. Her expression hardened into the face carved on statues and military banners. But Elias had seen the moment before the mask returned. Betrayal hurt her more deeply than the arrow. "I will arrest them both," she said. "With which soldiers?" "Mine." "You do not know which of them are yours." Varka looked at him sharply. "The attackers knew your route," Elias continued. "They carried an arrow from your armory and poison from your medical stores. The captain brought the surgeon directly here. If you make an accusation now, they will say the poison has confused you. You sound experienced in mutiny. I am experienced in men who call murder duty." Varka rose from the chair. This time she remained standing, though her knees shook. "The summit begins tomorrow at sunset. The human governor and 3 orc clan leaders will be there. If I do not arrive, the captain assumes command of the Northern Legion. He has opposed the treaty from the beginning. Then the summit is his real target. He kills me, blames human raiders, and marches my legion south in revenge. Peace ends before it begins. Can you prove it?" "The arrowhead. It proves the arrow came from your armory, not who fired it." Varka looked at the black armor stacked beside the table. "The breastplate," she said. "Bring it to the lamp." Elias lifted it. The armor was heavier than a sack of grain. He placed it beneath the light while Varka examined the inner leather straps. Every set made for a commander carries the armorer's date beneath the shoulder plate. She ran a finger beneath the damaged edge and stopped. A thin white powder clung to the lining. Elias scraped some onto a glass dish. Bitter almond and sweetness. "More night glass," he said. "The arrow was not meant to deliver the full dose. Your armor was. Heat and sweat would carry it through your skin." Varka looked at the breastplate as if it had bitten her. "Who prepared your armor this morning?" "My squire." "Where is he?" "Missing in the pass." Silence settled between them. The person who had dressed her for battle was either dead or part of the plot. The armor she trusted more than any living creature had become the weapon meant to kill her. Varka reached for it anyway. Elias put his hand over hers. "You cannot wear this again. I cannot walk into the summit wrapped in your blanket. Better embarrassed than dead. You do not understand what armor means to my people." "Then tell me." Her hand remained beneath his, green fingers against black iron. For several breaths she said nothing. "When an orc child becomes a soldier," she finally said, "the first plate is placed over the heart. We are taught that iron remembers every blow it turns aside. A warrior's armor carries the honor of those who repaired it, the hands of family, the marks of survival. To remove it before a stranger is to say, 'I trust you not to strike.'" Elias slowly lifted his hand from hers. "And you removed it for me?" "I was poisoned." That was not an answer. Varka looked at him, and the space between them changed. "No," she said. "It was not." Elias covered the poisoned armor and made Varka rest while the antidote worked. At her insistence, he wrapped the arrowhead in waxed cloth and kept it beneath his shirt. She trusted him with the evidence because, as she quietly admitted, she had already trusted him with more. Near midnight, a wounded young soldier climbed through the window. Scouts had found Varka's missing soldiers murdered in a ravine, including her squire. The captain had confined the scouts, ordered the stable burned, and sent false messages bearing Varka's seal to the peace summit. They accused the human governor of arranging the ambush and commanded the Northern Legion to prepare for war. "How did you pass the guards?" Elias asked. The soldier looked embarrassed. "The monastery goat attacked one. I knew he could be trusted. The old monastery burial tunnels offered their only escape." Elias dressed Varka in an oversized brown monk's robe. earning a glare when he called her a threatening curtain. As he belted it around her waist, his fingers brushed her sides. Their faces moved close enough that she looked at his mouth. The captain began battering the treatment hall door. Varka ordered the soldier to remain and spread word that she had been moved upstairs. Elias gathered medicine and led her down through the grain cellar as the door splintered behind them. At the bottom of the ladder, weakness overtook her. He caught her and placed her arm over his shoulders. "Still certain you can travel?" "No," she admitted. "But I will." Together, they pushed aside a barrel and entered the narrow burial passage. The burial tunnels smelled of wet earth and old stone. Small alcoves lined the walls, each holding bones wrapped in decayed cloth. Elias raised the lantern. "Do human healers often flee through tombs with half-dressed commanders?" Varka asked. "Only during the busy season." Voices entered the cellar behind them. They moved faster. The tunnel descended steeply, then split in 3 directions. Elias stopped. "Which way?" Varka looked at him. "This is your monastery." The dead did not leave maps. A gust moved the flame toward the left passage. "Air," Elias said. "That way." They followed the draft. The passage narrowed until Varka had to turn sideways. Her shoulder struck the wall, and pain drained the color from her face. Elias set down the lantern. "Let me see the bandage." "Later." "Now." "They are behind us. And your blood is beneath you." Varka looked down. A dark stain spread across the brown robe. Elias guided her into an empty burial chamber and pulled the stone door partly closed. Footsteps echoed faintly from the tunnel. "Take off the robe," he whispered. "You have become very interested in removing my clothing. You have become very committed to being injured beneath it." She opened the robe and let it fall from one shoulder. The bandage had slipped. Elias pressed fresh linen to the cut and wrapped a clean strip around her chest. Varka watched his face while he worked. "You do not look at me the way other humans do," she said. "How do other humans look at you?" "Some see a monster. Some see a weapon. Some see a story they can tell after surviving the room." "And what do I see?" Elias tightened the knot. "A patient who refuses to remain still." "Only that?" The question was quiet. Boots scraped stone outside the chamber. Elias placed one finger to his lips. Varka drew him into the shadow behind the stone door. There was barely room for both. Her back pressed against the wall, his chest against hers, their faces separated by a breath. 2 guards passed outside carrying lanterns. "The captain wants the human alive," one whispered. "The commander is already dead." Varka's hand tightened at Elias's back. When the light faded, neither moved. Elias felt her heart beating hard beneath the linen and robe. Her eyes dropped to his mouth again. "You did not answer," she whispered. "This is not the ideal moment. I have found ideal moments unreliable." He should have stepped away. He should have remembered the poison, the soldiers, the treaty, and the dead surrounding them. Instead, he touched her face. Varka closed her eyes and leaned into his palm. "I see a woman carrying an army so long she has forgotten how heavy it is," he said. "I see someone who would rather bleed than let frightened soldiers know she can be wounded. And I see a commander who took off her armor for a stranger, even though every scar taught her not to." Her eyes opened. "That is too much to see in one night." "I am observant." "You are insolent." "Also true." Varka's fingers rose to the back of his neck. For a moment, Elias thought she would kiss him. A shout echoed from the tunnel. "They went east?" Varka released him. "We should disappoint them." They continued left. The passage ended behind a frozen waterfall beyond the monastery wall. Elias broke the thin ice with a stone. They crawled through into a ravine filled with snow and bent pine trees. Below them, lanterns moved around the infirmary. Smoke rose from the stable. "They burned the horses," Varka said. "Not all." At the bottom of the ravine stood a small gray mule tied beneath a rock shelf. The elderly porter used it to collect herbs. Varka looked at the animal. The mule looked at Varka. Neither seemed impressed. "That is not a war horse," she said. "Tonight, neither are you." The mule objected to carrying Varka until she stared directly into its eyes. Then it became unusually cooperative. Elias walked beside them, holding the lead rope. The eastern trail climbed through dark forest. Snow softened every sound behind them. For the first hour, Varka sat straight despite the pain. During the second, her body began to lean. By the third, her head rested against Elias's shoulder whenever he walked close enough. "I am not sleeping," she murmured. "You are arguing with your eyes closed." "Commanders practice both." Dawn found them above the tree line. The storm had buried the road. The summit fortress was still several hours east, invisible beyond white peaks. Elias found an abandoned shepherd's hut beneath a cliff. The roof was sound, and dry wood remained stacked near a stone hearth. Inside, Varka slid from the mule and nearly fell. Elias caught her. This time she did not protest when he lifted her arm around his shoulders. He built a fire, melted snow, and examined her wound. The skin was clean, but fever had returned. "Lie down," he said. "There is one bed." "You noticed." "Where will you sleep?" "Beside the fire." Varka looked at the gaps in the hut walls where wind pushed fine snow across the floor. "You will freeze." "I have blankets." "One blanket. It is currently around me." "Then I will freeze with dignity." "Do not be foolish. The bed is large enough." Elias looked at the narrow straw mattress. "For one orc, perhaps." "You are small." "I am an average human." "Exactly." He warmed soup while Varka rested. When he brought the bowl, she was studying the iron rings on her tusk in a small polished metal mirror. "What do they mean?" he asked. She touched the first. "A command earned in battle." "The second." "A life I was unable to save." "The third." "A promise I have not yet fulfilled." "What promise?" "Peace at the southern border." "You wear unfinished promises?" "They are heavier that way." Elias sat beside her. "Why do you want the treaty?" "Because I have buried enough soldiers to know victory is another word people use when they cannot bear to count the dead." She offered him the bowl after drinking half. He shook his head. "Eat." "That is for you." "You have walked all night." "You were poisoned." "And I am still larger." "That is not how nutrition works." Varka held the spoon to his mouth. Elias stared at it. "Is this an order?" "Yes." He ate. They passed the bowl between them until it was empty. The gesture felt more intimate than it should have. Outside, wind erased their tracks. Varka lay on the bed and turned toward the wall. Elias settled near the fire with his coat beneath his head. "Elias." "Yes?" "Get in the bed." That sounded more like a threat than an invitation. "It is an order against freezing." He brought the blanket and lay beside her. The mattress immediately tilted beneath Varka's greater weight, rolling Elias against her back. His arm landed around her waist. Both became very still. "This bed is treacherous," he said. "The bed has excellent judgment." He began to move away. Varka caught his hand and returned it to her waist. "Warmth," she said. "Of course." "Nothing else?" "Naturally." Her body was warm even through the robe. Elias could smell smoke, snow, and the faint bitterness of the antidote on her skin. "You are breathing differently again," she murmured. "Go to sleep." That was not a denial. She turned in his arms. The bed brought their faces close. Firelight moved across her green skin. Without armor and command, Varka seemed uncertain in a way Elias had never expected to see. "I have not shared a bed in 12 years, she said. "That is an alarming amount of trust to place in a mattress. The last time I removed my armor before humans, they killed everyone who had surrendered with me." The humor left him. "The burn on your back?" Varka nodded. A human officer promised safe passage. We stacked our weapons and armor in the center of the camp. At sunset, his archers fired burning pitch. My older brother pushed me beneath a supply wagon. He did not survive. Elias understood then. The armor was not pride. It was the boundary between a terrified young survivor and the fire that had taken everyone around her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I do not need pity." "Good. I was offering grief. They are not the same." Varka searched his face. "Why did you leave the Royal Army?" "I treated an enemy child after a battle. My commander ordered me to stop because our own wounded came first. There were no other wounded. He simply wanted the child to die." "What did you do?" I continued. "He struck me. I struck him harder." "You assaulted your commander?" "With a bedpan." Varka laughed. The sound filled the small hut. "It was the closest object," Elias said. "You are fortunate I was not your commander." "Would you have ordered me to let the child die?" "No." "Then your bedpans were safe." Her laughter faded into a smile. Her hand rested between them, close to his chest. "You trusted me enough to sleep," Elias said. "I trusted the storm to hide us. You trusted me with your back. You were already behind me. You trusted me with your armor." Varka's smile disappeared, but she did not retreat. "Do not ask for words I do not know how to give." "I am not asking." "You look as if you are." "Then stop looking at my mouth." "You noticed." A healer notices. Varka lifted her hand to his cheek. Her thumb moved once over the line of his beard. "And if a commander notices the same thing?" "She should make a decision." Varka kissed him. The first touch was cautious, almost questioning. Then Elias cupped the back of her neck and the caution broke. Her lower tusks brushed the edges of his lips as she pulled him closer. The hand at his cheek moved into his hair. For a woman who trusted no one, she kissed as though surrender could be another form of strength. Elias forgot the summit. He forgot the traitors and the storm. He knew only the warmth of her mouth and the powerful arm holding him against her. When they separated, Varka rested her forehead against his. "That was not warmth," he whispered. "No. Should I be worried?" "Very." He smiled. "Good." A horse whinnied outside. Varka was out of the bed before Elias could sit up. She pushed him behind the stone hearth and took the iron poker in both hands. The hut door opened. The young soldier from the infirmary stumbled inside, covered in snow. "Commander." Varka lowered the poker. "I ordered you to stay." The captain found the tunnel. He killed the porter and blamed the human healer. I could not remain. Elias closed his eyes. The old man had worried about damp, complained about tea, and left honey beside the goat's stall every morning. Now he was dead, because Elias had opened his door to the wrong patient. Varka saw the grief on his face. Her hand found his. The soldier continued. "The captain left the infirmary with 30 riders. He knows you are traveling east. The rest of the legion marches south at noon." "How did you find us?" Varka asked. The mule bit my horse near the trail. Elias looked through the window. The gray mule stood calmly beside a stolen horse. Another loyal servant, he said. The soldier held out a bundle wrapped in canvas. I brought this from the armory. Inside lay a set of plain leather scout armor, sized for a large orc but lighter than Varka's commander's plate. She touched it and then looked at Elias. Is it poisoned? The question cost her. Elias examined every strap, seam, and buckle. No powder, no unfamiliar smell. Only leather, oil, and smoke. It is clean. Varka did not reach for it. Help me put it on, she said. The young soldier turned away without being ordered. Elias lifted the robe from Varka's shoulders. She stood before him in the sleeveless padded layer and fresh bandage, strong and scarred, her eyes fixed on his face. If anything feels wrong, tell me. I will. He placed the leather vest over her shoulders, fastened the straps at her sides, and tightened them carefully beneath her arms. Each buckle became a question. Each time, Varka answered with a nod. When he finished, she placed her palm over his heart. You are breathing differently. The room is cold. Your ears are red. Commanders should not diagnose patients. You are not my patient. What am I? Varka's hand remained against his chest. I have not decided. The young soldier coughed politely while staring at the wall. They left the hut within minutes. Varka took the stolen horse, the soldier rode the mule, and Elias sat behind Varka because the horse could not carry two saddles. His arms closed around her waist. The position felt more dangerous now than it had before the kiss. Hold tighter, Varka said. For balance? If that explanation comforts you. They rode east into the snow. The mountain road narrowed between cliffs. Wind moved curtains of white across the path, hiding the world beyond a few horse lengths. Varka set a pace that would have exhausted a healthy rider. Elias felt the fever in the heat of her body beneath his arms. But every time he asked her to slow, she urged the horse faster. Near midday, they found the false messengers. Two horses stood abandoned beside a broken bridge. One rider lay unconscious in the snow with a cut above his eye. The other was gone, and the leather message tube had been opened. Varka dismounted. What happened? The young soldier examined the tracks. Someone met them from the east. One rider continued toward the summit. Two others turned south. The message has already divided, Elias said. One copy for the leaders, one for the legion. Varka looked toward the far peaks. Then we cannot catch both. You go to the summit, the young soldier said. I will take the southern trail and warn the legion. Alone? I only need to reach the first company before the captain's order. They know my face. Varka removed one of the iron rings from her tusk and placed it in his hand. Show them this. Tell them I live. Tell them no command bearing my seal is lawful unless they hear it from my mouth. The soldier closed his fist around the ring and bowed. Bring them peace, Varka said, not revenge. He mounted the spare horse and disappeared into the storm. Varka watched until he was gone. You gave him the promise ring, Elias said. I gave him proof. You could have given another. The others belong to the past. That one belongs to what comes next. They led their horse across the damaged bridge, one careful step at a time. Halfway over, the wood shifted. Elias lost his footing. Varka caught him by the coat and pulled him against her before he fell into the ravine. You continue to require saving, she said. I thought commanders enjoyed responsibility. Not when it talks this much. On the far side, she did not release him immediately. When this is finished, Elias said, what happens to us? Varka's expression closed. We survive the next hours. That was not the question. It is the only answer I have. She mounted. Elias climbed behind her, but the warmth between them had changed. The uncertainty stayed with him for the rest of the ride. The summit fortress appeared at dusk, carved into a black ridge above the clouds. Orc banners hung beside human ones along the outer wall. Hundreds of soldiers camped on opposite slopes, separated by a narrow, empty field. Even from a distance, Elias could feel the tension. Human archers had taken positions behind wooden shields. Orc infantry stood in armored lines with axes ready. One false message had brought two nations to the edge of battle. The main gate was closed. Varka rode directly toward it. Human guards lowered spears. Stop! She pushed back her hood. The guards stared. Commander Varka is dead, one said. Then death has become impatient, she replied. Open the gate. The senior guard looked at her plain leather armor. We received word that you ordered an attack on the governor. And yet I have arrived with one healer and no army. Does this look like an attack? The guard's gaze moved to Elias. Who is he? Varka glanced back at him. For a heartbeat, Elias wondered which answer she would choose. Healer, witness, human, mistake. He is the reason I am alive, she said. Open the gate. The doors groaned inward. Inside the fortress, the peace hall was already in chaos. Orc clan leaders shouted across the central table, while human ministers accused them of planning an invasion. The human governor stood beneath a carved stone arch, guarded by soldiers in blue. At the opposite end, an empty iron chair waited for Varka. Conversation died when she entered. She crossed the hall in the plain scout armor, snow melting in her black braids. Elias walked beside her carrying the medical bag. Every eye followed them. An orc clan leader rose. We were told you had been murdered by human raiders. Someone tried, Varka said. The humans in this room were not responsible. The human governor lifted the false order. This bears your seal. It accuses me of arranging the ambush. It is a lie. Your captain delivered witnesses. My captain delivered assassins. Murmurs moved through the hall. Varka held out her hand to Elias. He gave her the waxed cloth. She unfolded it and placed the poisoned arrowhead on the stone table. This came from my own armory. The armor prepared for me was lined with the same poison. My army surgeon attempted to inject me with a final dose after this healer removed the arrow. One human minister looked at Elias. And we are expected to trust the testimony of a healer dismissed from the royal army for assaulting an officer? Elias glanced at Varka. News travels strangely fast in mountains. Did you assault him? The governor asked. With a bedpan. A few soldiers failed to hide smiles. The minister struck the table. This is not a joke. No, Elias said. The officer ordered me to let a child die. I refused. If that makes my testimony worthless, decide accordingly. But before you do, smell the arrowhead. Bitter almond and fermented sweetness. Night glass. Your own physicians can confirm it. The governor summoned the summit physician, an elderly human woman with ink-stained sleeves. She examined the metal without touching it, then opened a reagent bottle over the residue. The liquid turned violet. Night glass, she confirmed. A military concentration. The orc leaders looked at one another. Where's your captain? One asked. Coming here, Varka said, with enough soldiers to silence everyone who can expose him. As if summoned by the words, a horn sounded outside. Once, twice, 3 times. The alarm for an approaching army. A guard rushed into the hall. Orc cavalry at the western gate. They carry the commander's banner. The human ministers reached for weapons. Hold, Varka ordered. The word crossed the hall with the force of a battle horn. Even the humans stopped. If the captain meant to attack, she said, he would not announce himself. He wants us frightened enough to attack first. The governor turned to the guard. No arrows unless I give the order. Another horn sounded closer. Varka swayed. Elias caught her elbow. Sit down. Not here. Your fever is rising. Then lower it quietly. He guided her behind the iron chair and opened his bag. She leaned against the stone wall while he checked the bandage. The wound has reopened, he whispered. Close it. I need proper light. You have a lamp. I need you lying down. You have a floor. You are enjoying this. A little. He pressed medicine into her hand. Drink. She obeyed without argument. The trust in that simple act affected him more than the kiss in the hut. When this is finished, Elias said, I am going back to the infirmary. Varka's eyes moved to his. Why? Because wounded people will still be there. Because the porter deserves burial. Because it is my home. The captain will have burned it. Then I will rebuild. You could serve at my fortress. As your healer? The question carried everything he had asked on the bridge. Varka looked away. You would have resources, assistance, protection, a rank, if you want one. And when you no longer need treatment? Her jaw tightened. This is not the time. You keep saying that whenever the answer frightens you. An army is outside. There will always be an army outside. Before she could respond, the doors opened. The captain entered the peace hall with 12 armed orcs. The army surgeon walked behind him carrying the same narrow leather case. The captain stopped when he saw Varka. His surprise lasted less than a second. Then he bowed. Commander, we feared the humans had taken you. You feared poorly. I brought the Legion to rescue the summit. From a danger you invented. Varka stepped forward. Elias saw the effort it cost her to stand straight. The captain looked at the arrowhead on the table. The poison has confused her. This human healer has held her alone since the ambush. He has filled her mind with accusations. He removed the arrow you placed in my back. A serious charge. Where is your proof? Your personal armory mark is on the metal. An arrow stolen from our stores. By humans. My scout found our missing soldiers murdered in the ravine. Your scout is absent. My squire was among the dead. Conveniently unable to answer. The captain's confidence grew with every uncertainty. He knew how lies worked. He did not need to prove his story. He needed only to make truth appear equally doubtful. The surgeon stepped forward. Commander, you are visibly fevered. Let me treat you. He opened his case. Varka's body went rigid. Elias saw her gaze settle on the silver syringe. He saw the memory of fire, surrender, and poisoned armor close around her. The surgeon approached. Elias moved between them. No. The captain smiled. You see? The human will not allow her own physician near her. Because her physician tried to kill her. Or because you need her weak. The surgeon reached for Elias. Varka caught his wrist. Remove your hand, she said. Commander, you are not well. Remove it. The surgeon twisted, trying to break her grip. The syringe fell from his case and rolled across the floor. The elderly summit physician bent over it. Her face changed. This is night glass, she said. Enough to kill 3 people. Silence struck the hall. The surgeon pulled a hidden knife. Varka drove her forehead into his face. Bone cracked. He fell. The captain drew his sword. His 12 soldiers raised theirs. Human guards surrounded the governor. Orc leaders reached for axes. In one breath, the peace hall became a room full of people waiting for someone else to begin a war. The captain pointed at Varka. She has betrayed her own blood for a human lover. Arrest them both. The word lover moved through the hall. Varka looked at Elias. He expected denial. A commander protecting her authority. A practical lie. Instead, she stepped beside him and took his hand. "He is the man I trust," she said. "More than the officer who wore my colors while poisoning me. If that is betrayal, then judge me after I save you from his blade." The captain attacked. Varka pushed Elias aside and caught the sword arm with both hands. She had no weapon, no black iron, and less than half her strength. The captain drove her backward into the stone table. Elias grabbed the iron chair and rammed it into the captain's knees. "You fight with furniture," Varka said through clenched teeth. "It is a medical tradition." The captain fell. Varka took his sword. His soldiers hesitated. "Look at me," she commanded them. They did. "You were told I was dead. You were told humans murdered our scouts. You were told to march on a peace summit while your commander lay poisoned by weapons from our own stores. Ask yourselves who benefits if you kill the people in this hall. Not the clans, not your families, not the dead. Only the man ordering you to strike." The youngest soldier lowered his blade. Another followed. The captain rose behind Varka with a dagger. Elias shouted. Varka turned too slowly. An arrow flew through the open door and struck the captain's hand. The dagger fell. The young soldier from the infirmary stood in the doorway, Varka's missing iron tusk ring hanging from a cord around his neck. Behind him filled the corridor with soldiers from the Northern Legion. "The commander lives," he said, "and the Legion answers to her." The captain's remaining supporters surrendered. Varka placed the sword at his throat. "You murdered my soldiers," she said. "You poisoned the armor my family helped forge. You tried to turn grief into war. Humans will betray you again," he spat. "They always do." Varka glanced at Elias. "Some will," she said. "So will some orcs. That is why trust is not given to a race, a uniform, or a piece of iron. It is given to people who earn it." She ordered the captain and surgeon taken alive for trial. When the doors closed behind them, the hall remained silent. Varka faced the human governor and the orc leaders. Blood had soaked through the leather at her shoulder. Fever brightened her amber eyes. "You came here to decide whether our people can live without teaching their children to inherit our graves," she said. "Tonight, one traitor nearly proved that fear commands us better than any general. If we leave now, he succeeds even in chains." She unbuckled the leather armor Elias had fastened around her. Whispers rose. Varka removed the vest and placed it on the table beside the poisoned arrowhead. Beneath it, she wore only the black padded layer and white bandage. She stood unarmored before both nations. "My people teach that removing armor before another is an act of trust," she said. "I will not ask humans to lower their weapons while hiding behind mine." The human governor studied her for a long moment. Then he removed his sword belt and placed it beside her armor. One orc leader set down an axe. A human minister lowered a dagger. Across the hall, weapons touched stone one by one. The treaty council began again. Varka lasted 7 minutes before collapsing. Elias caught her before she hit the floor. "I told you to sit," he said. "I signed the first page." "There are 20 pages? Then bring the table closer to the bed." "You are impossible." "You noticed." He carried her to the fortress infirmary, while diplomats argued more quietly behind them. For 3 days, snow sealed the summit fortress. The treaty continued in the rooms below, while Varka recovered upstairs. Elias cleaned the wound, controlled the fever, and refused entry to anyone who did not wash their hands. The captain confessed on the 2nd day, after learning the surgeon had confessed first. The plot had begun with nobles who profited from border raids, weapons contracts, and frightened villages. With the evidence secured and the Northern Legion refusing war, the remaining conspirators were arrested. On the 3rd morning, the treaty was signed. Elias stood at the window, watching human and orc soldiers dismantle the barricades between their camps. Behind him, Varka fastened the plain leather vest with one hand. "You should not be dressing yourself. You were looking out the window. That was not permission." He crossed the room and adjusted the strap beneath her injured shoulder. Varka watched him work. "The governor has offered you a royal appointment," she said. "I declined, without asking what it paid. It involved a palace. You dislike palaces? Too many stairs, too few goats. My fortress has goats." Elias tightened the final buckle. "Are you offering me employment again?" "Perhaps. I told you, I am returning to the monastery." "To rebuild?" "Yes." Varka's face became unreadable. "Then I will assign soldiers to protect it." "Thank you. And builders. Also useful. And supplies from my fortress. Generous. You could still live there." Elias stepped back. "Varka, what are you asking?" She looked at the armor rather than him. "I do not know how to ask. Try without rank, resources, or strategic advantages. Those are excellent reasons. Not for what happened in the shepherd's hut." Color deepened across her green cheeks. "You continue to risk your life." I am standing near a bed. Beds have proven dangerous. Elias waited. Varka touched the empty place on her tusk where the promise ring had been. "My life has always been divided into what duty requires and what I can survive losing," she said. "You do not fit either place." "That sounds encouraging." "It frightens me." "That sounds honest." She lifted her eyes. "I want you beside me when I am not wounded. I want you to argue with me when no kingdom depends on the answer. I want to know whether you breathe differently every time I remove my armor, or whether the effect will eventually fade." "It will not fade." "You sound certain." A healer notices patterns. Varka stepped closer. "Come to my fortress. Come to my monastery. I command an army. I have patience. The fortress is north. The monastery is south. This negotiation is failing. We need a treaty." Varka's mouth curved. "Half the year at the fortress, half at the monastery. The wounded cannot follow a calendar. Then we build a proper healing house between them, on neutral land, human and orc surgeons together." Elias considered. "With separate kitchens? Why?" "Orc pepper nearly killed me during the siege winter. Weakness. Medical fact. 1 kitchen. 2. 1 large kitchen divided by a line. Accepted." Varka held out her hand. "Then we agree?" Elias took it. "On the healing house." "Only that? The rest needs better terms." She pulled him closer by their joined hands. "Name them." "No poisoning. Obvious. No ordering me to sleep on floors. You chose the floor. You know using military logic during personal arguments. Impossible. Then negotiations have failed." Varka wrapped one arm around his waist. "What if I offer exclusive access to the commander's bed?" "That is a compelling amendment." She kissed him before he could invent another condition. Months later, the new border healing house opened on a green valley between the northern fortress and the rebuilt monastery. Its doors bore no royal seal and no clan symbol. Above them was carved a simple image of two open hands. Human and orc healers worked at the same tables. Soldiers were treated beside farmers, prisoners beside guards. Elias insisted that everyone washed before entering. Varka stationed the goat at the gate after it retired from the monastery. No one argued with him twice. The peace held, not perfectly. There were disputes over roads, taxes, grazing land, and whose cooks had started a kitchen fire. But letters replaced arrows more often than not, and every season fewer families buried someone at the border. Varka continued to command the Northern Legion. She wore new black armor forged from the old set after every poisoned strap and lining had been burned. The damaged shoulder plate remained scarred. She refused to polish the mark away. "Iron should remember," she told Elias. One evening, a year after the storm, Varka returned from patrol to find the healing house quiet. Elias waited in their room with a wooden case on the bed. "Another medical instrument?" she asked. "In a way." Inside lay a new iron ring made to fit her tusk. A small design crossed its surface, a healing leaf wrapped around a commander's blade. Varka touched the empty place beside her other rings. "What promise does this carry?" Elias opened his hand. A second ring rested on his palm, made for a human finger. "That depends on your answer." Varka stared at him. For once, the commander had no words. Elias smiled. "Remove your armor." Her amber eyes narrowed with familiar heat. "You have become bold. I need access to the patient. I am not wounded. Then I suppose this is personal." Varka removed her gauntlets and placed them beside the case. Then the gorget. Then the breastplate. She did it slowly, never looking away from him. When the last piece touched the floor, she stood before him in a simple black shirt, scarred, powerful, and entirely unguarded. "I trust you not to strike," she said. Elias took her bare hand. "I promise to be worthy of it." That was not the question. "No." He lowered himself to one knee. "Varka, will you continue arguing with me for the rest of our lives?" "That is a very poor proposal. I had a longer speech, but you dislike unnecessary words." "I dislike your unnecessary words." "Is that a yes?" She pulled him to his feet and kissed him. "It is a command," she whispered against his mouth. "You will marry me, as long as the order includes the right to disagree." Frequently. They married in the healing house courtyard, beneath both human and orc banners. No army stood between them. The elderly summit physician witnessed the vows. The young soldier carried the rings and returned Varka's third tusk ring before the ceremony. She wore it beside the new one. The unfinished promise had become peace. The new promise was Elias. Years later, recruits still told stories about the night the feared commander entered a monastery in poisoned armor and emerged with a human healer at her side. Most versions involved 100 assassins, a burning fortress, and Varka carrying Elias across 3 mountains. The truth was quieter. She had removed her armor. He had seen the woman beneath it, and neither of them had looked away. If you enjoyed Varka and Elias's story, subscribe for more orc-bound fantasy romance. For hotter and uncensored stories with deeper, more intense scenes, visit my Patreon page through the link at the top of the description.